Mark Wood, who is CEO of Microart. Mark, thanks for joining us, and thanks for taking part in this month's What's the Scoop, where we were looking at 2022 trends. Huge disruptor in the industry at the moment is clearly the issue with respect to shortages. That just seems to be going on, and it's not just components, it's talent. There's issues everywhere. Where are you on that right now?
We're deep in the middle of it. It's as I like to say, it's just not getting any better yet. We're struggling, as you say, with the components. We're struggling with people, and it doesn't seem to matter what material. Whether it used to be ICs, but now we're starting to see shortages in the others too. Even some of the jelly bean parts seem to be going out now.
Yeah,
resistors, capacitors. Yeah, it seems to be just across the board. Plastics. Yeah. Anything and everything that could go wrong is going wrong, it seems.
Yeah, and it seems to be two things. And people have said to me printed circuit boards as well. It seems to be two things. One is a shortage of components, but one is a real freight snarl up, and that doesn't look like it's going to improve quickly, even if we can get some balance in the component. Do you think it's those in equal measure, or do you think it's mainly one or the other?
I think it's two different things. Yeah. But I also think that what a lot of us are discounting is because of the shortages in the raw materials, that's leading to shortages in the ICs because they can't make ICs because they can't get the raw materials. So you throw in the supply chain on top of that, and it just makes everything that much worse. Yeah,
it's almost like a perfect storm of supply chain disruption, and that looks like it's going to take us pretty much through most of 2022 right now, doesn't it?
Yeah, I just can't see it getting any better. We talked to the manufacturers directly, and there's just no end in sight for them. They're not shortening any of the deliveries right now. They're just getting longer and longer. So.
Yeah. So when I look at the challenge for a company like Microart, I mean, you're kind of known as that gritty, tenacious company that gets stuff done. It's now harder to get stuff done and get stuff out the door. So that's a big challenge. So you kind of put a bit of stress on that traditionally very intimate partnership with your customers. You're putting a stress on the business because you just pile up work in progress and cash and inventory. How are you managing all those dynamics at the moment? How are the customer relationships holding up? Are they being pragmatic, or are they?
Well, it's funny. Some of the customers fully understand what's going on because I think a lot of them are ordering other whether it's metal or plastics or whatever, and they're seeing those problems for those commodities too. So we're just another commodity to them. A printed circuit board is just a part number, and they kind of realize that they're not going to get it when they want to get it. But then there are the customers who just don't seem to have watched any news whatsoever and don't see a problem and can't understand why they can't get their product. And we've gone out to a lot of our larger customers and said, you know what, you consistently order these parts, maybe you should give us a long-term order. And I would say the majority have. Some of them are hesitant, but we're saying if you don't, then we can't guarantee any kind of delivery.
Yeah. And that kind of connects to what you were saying about being both excited and stressed about 2022 in equal measure, because the order book looks so good at the moment, I guess.
Oh, it looks very promising. We have enough orders on the books to carry us through next year. But that's if we can get the components. If we don't, then we will be in trouble like everybody else. So
and meanwhile, we're seeing a bit of a trend to regionalization again. I think there's a bit of an understanding that China perhaps isn't as cheap as it was. The logistics problems, if you're manufacturing in China, are obviously amplified. There's supply chain security issues. Are you seeing increasing demand as a result of that as well?
Oh, I would definitely say that. We're seeing customers that before would have dropped or jumped over to China as their volumes ramped up, and now they're just staying local.
Well, that's good news.
I read a very interesting article this morning that claimed that Mexico is now cheaper than China from a labor standpoint, and that kind of surprised me because I didn't think it had swung that fast.
Yeah. But when you look at the trends, I guess Mexico's been holding pretty steady. The exchange rates have been okay. And China's inevitably, the costs of labor are rising, and they're suffering from the same talent shortages that we are everywhere.
That we are,
We're hearing this term, the Great Resignation. And I know that's maybe part of it, but I think there's just a case of not enough labor to go around, so everybody is everybody's poaching labor from everybody else. Are you concerned about wage inflation and the impact that might have?
We've had to give across the board wage increases to everybody to try and slow that down a bit. But I think what we've seen this year too is a lot of retirement that wasn't planned. We do have some older employees in the company, and I think ones that were maybe going to retire in a year or two took this opportunity to say, you know what, enough's enough of COVID. I don't want to go through the hassle, so I'm just going to retire now.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of been a reevaluation point for a lot of people, hasn't it, in terms of, in terms of that stress. So when you look forward to 2022, what are the segments that are performing well for you? What are the segments of industry or a business that you think are promising?
Well, the medical is definitely still in its infancy. I would say that we're seeing a lot of ramp up of new types of technology in that. For us, we're starting to see more automotive that we didn't see before, more of the electric vehicles and the autonomous equipment to go into those vehicles. We're seeing that now. Still IoT products, a lot of more industrial IoT than commercial IoT. More metering. We're seeing more and more customers monitoring this, monitoring that weren't there before.
And what about from a Microart point of view? What investments have you got planned? I know you've just opened a new headquarters. What's the plans for 2022 look like at the moment?
We're still looking at M&A activity. We still have a couple companies on our list for acquisition. We want to continue to diversify into other, maybe buy some of our suppliers potentially, maybe get into metalwork, plastics, potentially even printed circuit boards at some point.
Yeah, that vertical integration is becoming quite interesting again, isn't it? And I think the opportunity to be that closer manufacturing partner to your OEM customers means having all those things would be valuable.
Yeah, and what we find is a lot of them are very local to us. I'd say within 5 kilometers.
Yeah. Do you know what, Mark? That shorter supply chain, every supply chain issue I see, whether it's sustainability, whether it's shortages, whether it's logistics, I keep coming up with the answer that shorter supply chains are maybe better. If we go back to the first industrial revolution, then that was all about very, very short supply chains. Every factory that supplied another factory was almost next to it. So
exactly,
we've gone about as far from that as we can, and maybe we need to get a little bit back towards it. Yeah. Mark, thanks so much for your time. I hope you get time to relax over the Christmas break, and you come back ready to go for 2022.
Ready to rock and roll.
It's going to be a hell of a year. So thanks for your time.
Well, thank you.